welcome to this part of the JavaScript tutorial. In this part, we're going to talk about all related to the DOMs, and generally we're going to talk about at first what DOM is. DOM stands for Document Object Model, and with the HTML DOM, JavaScript can access and change all of the elements of an HTML document. So generally what What a DOM does is when a web page is loaded, the browser creates a document object model of the page. And the HTML DOM model is constructed in a way that JavaScript can change all of the HTML elements in the page. And also it can change, JavaScript can change all of the HTML attributes in the page. Also, it is true about the CSS styles, meaning that it can change the CSS styles in the page. Also, JavaScript using DOM can remove the existing HTML elements and attributes. And also it can add new HTML elements and attributes. So in addition to that, JavaScript can react to the existing HTML events in the page. And also, it can create new HTML elements in the page. So we can do all kinds of manipulations on the HTML elements. And generally, what it does, the HTML DOM, is a standard for getting, changing, adding, and deleting HTML elements. So right now, I'm gonna get started with the simplest kind of a DOM. So I'm gonna start with the hello world example of a DOM. So let's create a directory first for our project. I'm gonna call this folder DOMs. Actually, mk directory DOM. So I'm gonna press enter and cd DOM. So here I'm gonna create a file for our DOM element. So we can create a single HTML file for our JavaScript code inside of the script tag. So we're not going to create two files just like other one of our projects. So here I can write touch. Then I can write my template, for example, my template.html. And so it's gonna create a file like that, and let's run code space dot in order to open window containing our files and folders. So it's just a folder and a file, not much, but let's open that up. And so we'll add this one, and there we go. So we have our HTML document. Perfect. So we can get started with coding here inside of the HTML file. And so the first tag I'm going to add here is HTML and then the body. So right over here, I'm going to add body too. And then we will have the script tag. So before we want to add the script tag, we'll add a p tag here, and I'm gonna add an ID so that later we can get this ID and manipulate it. So I can call the ID, for example, ID or my ID, and then I'm gonna close this one. So here in between the p tags, I'm gonna actually, we don't need anything inside of here between the p tags. So just a demo will suffice, the ID. So now in the next line, I'm gonna add the script tag. So the script tag is going to add our JavaScript code for us. So now here, instead of the script tag, we can write the DOM code where we can manipulate the HTML element, which is p tag over here with our JavaScript code. So right over here, I'm gonna run document So this is one of the most famous examples that we're gonna use throughout the tutorials a lot. So document dot get element by ID. So as you can see, we have different kinds of get element. We have get elements by class name. So we have get element by class name, by name, by tag name, and other options. So by tag name, when you get the tag name, for example, you get the p tag, it will change the p tag, okay? Or if you get the ID related to that tag, so you have so many different p tags, but you want to only manipulate one specific tag, so it's then that you use the ID. So here we use by ID, and then we will write the ID inside of the parentheses. Also, by the way, this is d with this small d. And so the next thing we need to do is to write the ID. So it's my ID. And then we will write dot inner HTML, meaning that we will get this from the inner HTML of this code. And so it will equal to, for example, here we can write hello world, right? So hello, oh, it's hello world. There we go. And so the next thing we need to do is to also don't forget to write this semicolon. And now our job is done. We can run our code and test it to see if it works. So what needs to happen here is that we'll see hello world instead of the p tag, meaning that we will generally see this hello world in our page. But with this difference that we added the variable hello world or any other variables that we've defined inside of the JavaScript to this p tag, right? So without writing anything in between the p tags. So for example, you have some variables that you do some processings on it, and you want it to, for example, show it here instead of this p tag, or you have a for loop. You want to show different, represent different items, which we will talk about it in the later tutorials. But right now, we'll start with the simple hello world and test it. So now let's run our code, this time with the live server, which we had installed in the beginning of our course. We learned how to install inside of our VS Code. So open with live server after right-clicking on the file. And so as you can see, the VS Code says that server is started at port 5500. And so here you can click on this and you will be able to see that the browser opens up and the port 5500 inside of your local host will be opened up. And as you can see, hello world appears. So let me just a bit minimize this one so that we can code and at the same time see the changes with the live server. So it's right over here. And by the way, notice that I've removed the S from the element. So get elements by ID, not get elements by ID, right? So now what we need to do, for example, we can write hello world from Arashtad. And right here, let me open up this here. And so before that, let's save this code. And now let me again open up the here. As you can see, the change has been made on this page, and the element p tag has also been changed. So the live server has also helped us to show this in a live way, so we don't have to refresh the page each time. So now the next thing we need to do, we can, for example, make use of the other method and that is the getting the elements by the tag name. So before we want to do that and add the tag, I need to explain something about document.getElementById.inner.html. First of all, if you don't write inner.html, this by itself will be a kind of a variable which we can store and console.log. So let us console.log this part by itself. So let me copy and paste it over here instead of the console.log and see what it returns. So let's press Ctrl S and take a look at our browser. So let's do this and inspect the elements from right here. And so let's take a look at our console. As you can see, it shows P with the ID tag and hello world from Arashtad. So it's showing the tag, it's showing the ID. So the tag related to our ID and whatever is written inside of it, right? So it will only get the element, right? It won't do anything. But with the inner.html method, it will also write something inside of the HTML element that we are pointing at, which is the p tag right over here with this ID. So here we're pointing at the ID. However, if we take a look at the tag name, it may show different results. So let me add another p tag over here to for you to better understand it. So it's a p tag with hi, only a simple hi. And now I can write console.log, and here instead of now document dot get elements by tag name. So here you can enter the tag name that you're looking for, and this should be inside of the quotation marks. So it should be written with P, and there we go. So let's console.log this one. Also, don't forget about these semicolons. There we go. Let's save the code, and now let's take a look at our browser. So as you can see, we can right here we can see the HTML collection. So there are two HTML results. Let me make this a bit bigger, maximize this, and you will be able to see that the first one is with the my ID my ID, and the other one is a p tag without any ID. And if I open up the first one, you will see a lot of attributes here, and so it's a very long one. Let's close this. Also, it hasn't got closed, and okay, let me do this for this one. And now we have another p tag, so let's open this up. And by the way, so it shows the collection of the p tags, and so it's a kind of an array where we can address which one of them we're looking for. So let me get into my code. And if you store this in a variable, you can refer to the first one or the second one. So if I want this p tag right over here, I can point to the second one. So let me cut this from inside of the console.log and write, for example, let x be equal to this, and then I'm gonna write x, and then I'm gonna refer to the first element of it, right? So let's save the code and let's take a look at our browser. So as you can see, it only points to the hi instead of that collection, because we've only pointed to the second p tag. So that's it for this part of the DOM tutorials, and in the next one we're going to show you the other DOM types. So that's it for this part.